Welcome back to the channel. I'm Colin, and this video will be on my thoughts on the Kiwi Ears Cadenza II, the successor of the very popular Cadenza I, which I actually never tried. But that doesn't really matter because the Cadenza II is in a different price point and has a different tuning from the original. It even looks completely different. What it really took from the original is really just the name. That said, the Cadenza II retails for $50 and uses a titanium-coated PET dynamic driver. It has a polycarbonate body with an aluminum faceplate. Touching the shell, it kind of feels like it has a soft touch paint or coating. It feels like the finish that you always see in computer mice. Packaging of the Cadenza II is really simple. Comes in a tiny box and has 6 pairs of silicone tips, a copper cable, and some documentation. Really not much to talk about here. So let's talk about the sound instead. I primarily tried these on my DX260 Mark II and my MacBook Pro. They aren't difficult to drive. I think the Cadenza II has a really mature and well-balanced tuning when compared to other budget IEMs. Most IEMs at this price range usually has a really deep V-shaped sound or just the color tuning in general. But the Cadenza II has a really well-balanced and relatively neutral tuning. Let's check out the graph. The Cadenza II basically has an IEF tuning with an 8 dB bass shelf. The bass shelf cuts off quite early at 200 Hz to maintain mid-range clarity, which results in very clean bass that doesn't bleed into the lower mids. At the 300 Hz region, there's a tiny 2 dB boost to add warmth and body to the male vocals. To be honest, I don't think I noticed that tiny boost when I heard it. The vocals sound quite neutral and clean to me. And when we pull up the graph of the Arete 2 that I just reviewed, they actually look very similar. This essentially is a poor man's Arete 2. When actually listening to the Cadenza 2, it felt pretty neutral. There isn't a part of the frequency range that really stands out. The bass is clean and quick and very responsive, but it is lacking a bit of punch and impact in my opinion. Very clean and well defined, but lacking in depth. The mid-range is the favorite part of the Cadenza II for me. It sounds really natural and it has a great sense of realism no matter what genre I play through it. There's no boxy sound and no shrill sounding vocals, and there's no obvious coloration either. That can't be said for a lot of sets around this price range. I don't think it sounds super detailed, but just natural in a good way. The treble is also tonally very accurate. However, I find the resolution slightly lacking when playing busy tracks. The treble seems to lack airiness and decay when playing a challenging or a busier track. On more simple songs, there's good airiness and depth in the treble area. The decay is relatively short, but audible. This brings us to the soundstage performance of the Cadenza II. The soundstage of it is wide and deep in this price category. I especially like the depth it presents in vocal recordings. However, imaging is just okay. You hear where things are coming from, just not pinpoint accurate imaging. Let's compare it to the Arete 2 for fun. Not really a fair comparison as the Arete 2 is 5 times the price, but I wanted to see how much the Cadenza lacks behind or how close it sounds. The first thing that stood out to me when I was comparing the two was the bass depth. The bass of the Arete 2 had much more depth and authority even though the bass quantity was similar. The other thing that's quite different is the mid-range. The Cadenza 2 has a bit more airiness and body in vocals, while the Arete 2 is more sterile and clean. For vocal-oriented and acoustic stuff, I actually like the Cadenza 2 a little better. So the cheaper set isn't worse in all areas when compared, at least for my preference. But where the Cadenza 2 gives out is at the complex tracks like classical music, rock and metal stuff. The bottom end and treble feels like it's kind of losing the normal sound density you get in some parts of those tracks. Then I compared it to the Wyvern Black Remaster. The Wyvern has a tuning that follows the Harman curve more in the treble, while the Cadenza 2 follows the IEF tuning. The Wyvern is a little more V-shaped in the tuning. When comparing the two, it's obvious to me that the Wyvern has a little more depth and quantity in the bass if you are looking for a bassier set. But when comparing the mid-range, the Cadenza II sounds more natural. The Wyvern 2 sounds slightly recessed and a little boxy to me. The resolution also isn't as good as the Cadenza II. For the treble, it's obvious that the Wyvern has more treble energy. Some people would mistake that for more resolution or clarity. However, I don't find the treble to be more resolving than the Cadenza. But it is indeed a bit brighter. If you are treble sensitive, you might find the T and S sounds a bit more sibilant on the Wyvern. I think the Cadenza II is more all-rounded, neutral and better performing between the two. But that's to be expected as it's a bit more expensive. The Wyvern is $30 and the Cadenza II is $50. The Cadenza II isn't perfect, and no product is perfect in general. There are two things that I think are kind of cons for the Cadenza II. First, it's the resolution in the two ends of the frequency spectrum. The mid-range is great on the Cadenza, but it kind of lags behind in the treble resolution and bass depth when you play a demanding track with it. This is not uncommon with budget IEMs, but the price of the Cadenza is creeping into mid-priced budget sets. This brings us to the second con, the price. The original Cadenza was $35, which was part of the reason it was so popular and so easy for other reviewers to recommend. But the Cadenza II is $50 now. When you creep up to the $50 to $75 price range, there are a lot more options with nice accessories and a fancier build. There is much tougher competition for the Cadenza II. In summary, the Cadenza II is a set I like a lot. It's well balanced and relatively neutral. This is a set that I can pack on a 1-week trip as my only IEM, and I won't feel like I am missing anything. It might not sound like a lot, but sometimes when I review more budget IEMs, it only performs well in some certain tracks, but not the Cadenza II. It's an all-rounder for me. That said, I would recommend the Cadenza II for those looking for a simple, all-rounded IEM at around $50. There are no fancy accessories or cables, but if you prioritize tonal balance and sound quality over that, the Cadenza II would be a good choice. So that's it for the video. Like, share, and comment if you have any questions. Feel free to use the affiliate links below if you think this video is helpful. Thanks.